Welcome to Black Girl Diagnosed. Today we're joined by a very, very special guest, Rivera, creator of NeuroDivergent Rebel, blog and author of best-selling workbook Workplace Neurodiversity Rising, praised by Forbes as an essential guide grounded in lived experience and professional incitement. Since launching Rebel in 2016, Lyric has helped reshape how people understand neurodiversity through writing and video, centering autistic voices, creative expression, and anatomy. Their work challenges outdated narratives and pushes for a world where neurological differences are respected and accepted. So I just want to thank you so much for being here. You've always been a very, very big supporter of mine, even before, my following started to grow. So I'm really excited to have you here.
Well, I'm honored to be in your space. I don't remember which platform it was, but you were in my news feed once, and I just saw you had a lot of really great things to say. And so, it's like if someone has something great to say, I share it. And so you have a lot of great things to say, and I'm
Thank you.
honored
I,
that
I
you
really
have me in your
appreciate that.
space.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've been trying to do better with being more like active on social media, but sometimes every time they do an update, it becomes a little bit overwhelming, but I am trying to get back into posting consistently. So, but let's
Uh,
get into you.
okay.
Um, do you want to share what your late diagnosis journey looked like and how it changed the way you understand yourself?
Yeah, so I didn't know I was autistic for the first 29 years of my life. And for me, that was, a lot of different periods I went through from school, and then I entered the workforce really early. And so I, had a lot of encounters with the outside world that helped form opinions about myself, but I didn't have the label of autism to help inform the lens through which people were, putting things on me. And so, when I was younger, there was an opportunity where the school wanted to have me assessed for learning disabilities. And my family was like, no, absolutely not. They're going to label that child with a label that's going to follow them for the rest of their life. And so there was no assessment. And so, people still noticed there was something going on, but there wasn't an autism or an ADHD label. There wasn't, we didn't know about neurodiversity or neurodivergence back then. And so the labels were stubborn and sensitive and rebellious and difficult. And a lot of things were assumed when I was struggling or I needed more support or I couldn't do something, that it was intentional defiance or just trying to
Yes.
be difficult, trying to give people a hard time, when it was really I just needed more support. And so, finding out I was autistic at 29, when I was really in a mental and physical health crisis, and I was really not doing well, and I was in a workplace that was mirroring my school experience
Mhm.
of really blaming me for needing support and not having the tools I needed to thrive and be successful. And so that, I was falling apart, and it's like I had to reach this crisis point to finally be diagnosed autistic. And then it was just kind of like this lightning rod moment where it contextualized everything in my life that had never quite fit or made sense. And brought up a lot of repressed memories I
Yeah.
had completely forgotten. And the past 9 years have just been the healing journey and trying to really know, like, who am I really outside of who I was told I was? Because I thought I was just like everyone else, but I was just like some kind of failed version, because I had used non-autistic people as like this thing I was trying to mold myself after, which was an impossible for me ideal. And I was really destroying myself, trying to do something that was,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
square peg round hole.
yeah, and when you said that, like people were just saying that you were lazy and defiant, I feel that so much, especially, as a millennial, those nobody really talked about autism when we were
No.
children. So like when I reached that point of from like going from teenage to adulthood, I was really struggling and I couldn't do it. And there are still things that teenagers can do that I can't do. But like friends of the family were like saying to my parents that I was just being lazy and that I didn't want to do anything with my life. And I was just like, but nobody took the time to sit back and be like, oh, well, maybe something's going on here. Like, I think it was
Mhm.
missed with my parents because, autism in the Black community, not really talked about,
Yeah.
millennial. They didn't even talk about that when we were ch children. And, also me being an artist. You know how people are always like, artists are so
Oh
eccentric.
yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's why. But I just like when you was like people were saying you were being defiant and lazy. I'm like, oh my God, I heard that too. And like how dare you say that?
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like I'm reading and writing were like my things in vocab. And so it's like because I had like reading, writing, and vocab, it's like I was supposed to be good at everything. But it's
Yeah,
like, no,
yeah.
this is my one thing.
Yeah, that's what they don't understand because me, like I was so hyper focused on my art and people were like, "Oh, well she's an artistic prodigy." And I was just like, "But I can't cross the street." So it's just, they
Yeah.
just couldn't put the two and two together. But so let's talk a little about burnout, something that I'm like trying so hard not to slip into right now. I'm
Oh
like pre
gosh.
there. I think when we spoke last time, I was telling you about that. But so burnout is a big topic in the neurodivergent community. So how has burnout shown up in your life, and what helped you begin recovering from it?
Well, really, the last really big burnout in my life was what led to me being finally diagnosed autistic because
Uh,
I was in that point of burnout once again, and all of my coping skills that were really mirroring other people and masking and was falling apart. I couldn't do it anymore. Like I couldn't keep the facade up anymore. I was just so physically exhausted and I was starting to just feel really hopeless and I was getting like sick because it's like I'd been burnt out for so long that my body was starting to react.
yeah,
And so like that's what led me to being diagnosed autistic and also it let me realize that I had been in this chronic state of like burnout and recovery, it's just cycles of it, probably since elementary school, like looking
wow.
back throughout my life, but we never knew what it was. It was just like this mystery sickness that doctors didn't know how to label, but it was like I would have to go to school like physically ill because they were like, it's not contagious. Which was just like I was literally burnt out and exhausted. I needed to probably stay home and rest. It was like you have to go to more school, which was not the answer to what I needed. To just going to the environment that was just like fluorescent lights and overwhelming like
Yes.
sensory stuff, which I've learned now is the sensory stuff is a big contributor to me burning out is being in an environment that has the wrong sensory stuff because it makes me really hyper vigilant and so that makes me get exhausted more quickly and also just not knowing how to take care of myself and not knowing what my needs were like so like learning I was autistic for me was a big part of like stepping back away from burnout but it took me probably 5 or 6 years to recover from that last burnout like fully and start to
Yeah,
feel
that
like a
that
freaking person again.
yeah, that's really a lot. And I think can I said this before and someone got offended, but I don't care. I said that autistic and neurodivergent burnout is not like neurotypical burnout. We
No.
literally, it takes us longer. We can't just have like a spa day and our burnout is gone. So, and people like to get offended when they're like, you're framing everything around autism. And I'm like, well, I'm autistic and I can only speak about my experience. So everything that I speak about is going to be framed around autism. So I don't know why people get so offended that, we openly speak about being neurodivergent and but me, I don't care. I'll block you in a second.
Yeah, well, that's good. But like their world is designed to accommodate their needs and it's designed in a way that literally like depletes our health bar. And so it's
Yes.
like we constantly have to recover from a world that isn't nourishing us. And so that makes it harder. And then just thinking about even the fact that I was able to recover from burnout is a freaking privilege because just thinking about how many autistic people are under unemployed or like unhoused because like
Yes.
privilege impacts that. Like it's even a privilege to be able to recover from burnout because so many autistic people are literally, and even other neurodivergent people too, like you can just be stuck in that survival state.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely hard. I had experienced it really bad before I got diagnosed, but nobody just knew what it was. And I didn't know
Yeah.
what it was. And I was just like stuck in this rut of unknowing. So now that I know what it is and I know the signs, I can prevent going into that,
Hmm.
deep burnout place that's really hard to get out of. But as an ADHDer, what has trauma healing look like for you? Like, how do you separate survival habits from your authentic self?
Well, for me, it's been, and I was just talking about this with my best friend on the phone earlier this morning. Like a big part of it has been learning to like recognize truly safe people that I
Hmm.
have emotional safety with, because when I didn't know what my needs were and I didn't know I was autistic, I had the habit of really putting myself behind everyone else and like making
Yeah.
myself small and ignoring my needs because I thought they were inconvenient, and just finding people that are safe for me to like speak about my needs with and don't judge me and let me be my real, true, authentic self. And like, even though it's a very tiny handful of people, like those small, really close relationships with like truly safe people has been the most healing for me, because it's let me recognize the difference between how I engage with the world and how like triggered I can be when I'm around unsafe people. And so like it's given me like a window of like what safety can look like, and like the difference between when I'm in that survival response, because I got a social phobia diagnosis with my autism diagnosis, and I
Oh.
don't think I have a social phobia anymore 9 years later.
Hmm.
But I was definitely struggling with interpersonal relationships and afraid of really letting anyone get close to me 9 years ago, because people had been so bad to me and I didn't know how to spot when people were being manipulative and had bad intentions. And that is something I think unfortunately a lot of autistic people know. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
taken
you're
advantage
right.
of and hurt.
It and it does hurt. Like the past 3 years, I've been through a lot of changes with the personal relationships in my life. There was actually one person that like I had to get away from because I didn't realize how on edge that I was when I was around them
Hmm.
until I stopped communicating with them and until I cut off all communication. Like just from doing that, my anxiety was cut in half. And this person,
Yeah.
yeah, and this person actually was like, "You're autistic because everybody coddles you." And they were mainly talking about my dad, but I'm like, how is meeting somebody's support needs coddling them? So I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah, good for you. And that really is the thing, is like noticing the difference like when you're around people that like activate you. And when I didn't know I was autistic, I let people that activate me like be around me all the time, and that was the norm. But just like I was always activated. And so I
Yeah,
didn't know what not being activated felt like. And I didn't know what peace and ease felt like. I didn't
me
know what
either.
not
Oh
being
my goodness.
hypervigilant felt like.
I
That was
didn't know
normal.
either. And like I went to the ER and they gave me a Xanax and I was like, I didn't know that you could feel not anxious. I had lived
Yeah.
like in survival mode for so long and I've had anxiety since I was a little girl, but we didn't know it
Uh-huh.
was anxiety. My dad used to be like, "There's nothing wrong with you, go to bed." And I'm like, I can't
Oh, yeah,
breathe.
yeah, yeah.
But he's apologized since because he said looking back, he understands things. But
We didn't know
I
back then.
yeah, and I didn't know I had anxiety until I was treated for it. So that is just such a weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know. And I was in denial that I even had anxiety when I got anxiety diagnosed with anxieties. I don't have anxiety. And then years later when I started to like deal with it, I was like, and it started to subside, I was like, oh yeah, I totally had anxiety. Like
Yeah. Yeah, it is because it's just like a weird feeling, but when I didn't know I had it until I was treated for it and I was just like looking back thinking I was like, wow, you just thought that that was how you were supposed to feel all the time and you accepted it and you thought that it was okay and it wasn't.
yeah, it's the distance from it. Like that relationship, you just get that little distance from it. You go, oh wait, there's a different way I could possibly feel when you just like don't know any better.
Yeah. Yes, let's talk about this book, your new book, NeuroDivergent Rebels, The Weight of Normal. It just came out. What inspired you to write it, and what do you hope readers take away from it?
This one was a lot more personal than anything else I've ever put out. And, it talks about a lot of these things, like the trauma of not knowing who you are, and then also the weight of having expectations that you be and conform to something that's out of reach. And then when you internalize that on yourself, and like you start to put like really unfair expectations on yourself. And for me it was like I really hated myself, who I was, and I was really not okay. And everything just kept building up until I fell apart and it all came crashing down, and I've had to rebuild myself in adulthood and learn things I wish I could have learned as a kid.
Mhm.
um and I hope it helps people who have gone through similar things not have to struggle so much through their own journeys. I hope it can kind of show like a blueprint that like there is hope out there. And like because it can feel like we're really stuck, like we were talking about earlier. It's like when you're in it, until you get away from it a little bit and look back with a lot of these things like anxiety, trauma healing, any of that, like until you get some space from it and you look back, a lot of times you can't realize how far you've come. And that's how a lot of these things are. So it's like you may feel like you're not making a lot of progress along the way. It's like all these tiny little baby steps, but like one day you look back and it's like, wow, how far I've come.
Right.
And so I hope that the book kind of gives a snapshot to that. And also, it kind of speaks to the idea of treating neurodivergence as something that needs to be battled, and you just squished into compliance as well, and the harms that can cause. So there's a lot of heavy themes in there. So I mean, it might be a heavy read. Just a content warning on that for people too.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to speak briefly before we wrap things up. You are doing another collaboration for the Autism Identity Workbook. Um, why is identity work so important for autistic adults? Even I believe this one is for kids, right?
No, so the first one was for kids, and
Oh,
this
okay. And I'm getting confused because I just had the
we're
book.
now
Yeah, I meant
you
to bring the book in because I wanted to show people and I got distracted. But
I know I should have had books. I'm like, dang, the books are over there in a cabinet.
This is me all the time forgetting my books and stuff, but I
I was
wanted
like,
to
where
show
is it?
people the book that thank you, you included me in it, and I really appreciate that. But
Of course.
yeah, and I always tell people I'm like they are such a great supporter. So why is identity work so important for autistic adults and for kids, especially those like us who are diagnosed later in life?
Yeah, so, when with autistic people, especially if we find out we're autistic late in life, or maybe even if we found out early in life, but we took on a lot of negative ideas about what autism is, uh, and especially because autism is not one thing. It's like one
Yeah.
word that describes a multitude of experiences for all of us, regardless of age. It's important for us to know what autism means to us on a very individual, personalized level so that we can articulate our needs and advocate for ourselves, because we live in a world that isn't designed to take our needs into consideration,
Not at
unfortunately.
all.
And so we have to flex it constantly if we want to get our needs met. And so we've got to know what our needs are, how to speak up for those needs, and how we can potentially accommodate our needs in the world that wasn't designed to get those met. So, that's what the first version, which was the children's version, has all these exercises and things for young people to do, and examples of autistic adults, like, so because, to show that there are other
I
autistic
had such
people
a
in the
great time with
world.
I think I had such a great time like in that workbook. So that's why I'm like, is this one for adults or is
Exactly. And we had adults getting it for the to use as adults, even though it was for young people around age 10. But it's always just a suggestion. And I
Yeah.
knew, like, when I was creating it, I halfway through I told Rebecca, I was like, there needs to be an adult one.
I
Because
just I had so much fun with the workbook and I have the publisher actually sent me two copies, so I do
oh,
have one.
good.
Yeah, I have one that I can work in and one that I don't
An
want to touch
extra.
because it's just,
But
it's a good memory. It's a
hmm
memorabilia. So I'd be saying that. I'm like, I just be having too much fun here.
well, I'm honored and humbled, because really I get to now create the workbook I needed 9 years ago when I was
Right.
diagnosed, so I can fast track people and they don't have to spend 9 years getting to this point. Because it's like there was nothing like this for adults when I was diagnosed autistic that could help me like figure out who I was and how to advocate for my needs that
Mm.
I'd been gaslit from believing existed for most of my life.
Yeah.
And so like I'm just really humbled that I get to like really create the resource that I would have needed back then that could have really fast-tracked my life to like being in a better place with myself as an autistic person, because it was just like, message forums, like trying to find
Yeah, yeah,
resources. It was
I wish I
ridiculous.
had the workbook because, like, when I first got diagnosed as autistic for 2 years, I didn't do anything. I didn't take no action, try to find anything out about autism. But then, I had my little revelation, and I was looking for books, and there weren't really any. Like, there were some that were saying they were neurodivergent friendly, but then I'm like, well, let me see if the author is neurodivergent, and they weren't. And some of them are still great, but just when it comes from the point of somebody who has that lived experience, I feel like it's more effective. And sometimes people get offended when I'm like, okay, autism
Yeah.
advocates who are not actually autistic yourself, you don't know more than us. Somebody really got mad at
Yeah.
me on LinkedIn when I
Oh,
said that,
people
but I
get
don't
mad
care.
about that. Yeah, yeah. I noticed lately you've been really challenging people and being willing to say things, that might make people really have to sit with their feelings for a while. And
Yeah,
I
I,
love
I
that about you.
I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke that when I posted about, the autistic Barbie,
Hmm.
I was like, is there a black one? Why isn't there a black one? And people went nuts and the post went viral. And I even had like some black people like saying, things that I'm just like, oh, I'm a little bit disappointed in you for that comment. But when the point of me asking was because when people request something, it's more likely that you will get it. And I never
Yeah.
even gave my thoughts about the Barbie. I still haven't publicly gave my thoughts about the Barbie. I just asked a question. And then I also had to tell people, the other day I put up a post about how poverty affects autistic children and it did okay. But then I asked, was there a black Barbie? And it went viral. Where are your priorities?
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, because that's a big thing with autistic people. Like if we can get our needs met or not, like if we are stuck in poverty, it's almost impossible for us to, just like we need to have our basic needs met.
Yeah,
It's
and I talk to parents all the time. I've worked in underserved communities, so it's like I see this and I see
Mhm.
like when they speak to me in my mind, I'm like they're being medically gaslit. So it's just
Yeah.
like a very sad situation, and that cycle will continue until something is done about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I have been a little bit more militant lately. I still do my posts, what I like to do, but I'm just like, all right, well, people are on my page now, and I think it's time to open up the conversation more and start some more uncomfortable conversations because that's how you grow. But I just think I feel like when this workbook comes out, so many people are going to benefit from it because I get a lot of DMs too, people asking me things how to cope with things. So I feel like it's just coming at the right time, and I just feel like I'm gonna tell everybody about it because it's like there's nothing else like it.
Well, I hope it's just it's a blessing to be able to create something like this. And something like this, like I like to do a lot of self-published stuff, like with my stories and my other books have been self-published, but like having a publisher behind us with like Routledge's and Taylor and Francis has been really great too. And it's just it's really amazing and humbling to get to create it, and I hope I really hope it's helpful to people.
I think it will
Yeah.
be. Like I said, I got help from the other one, and it wasn't even for us.
It's
So
like, I don't want people to be alone, because it's like
yeah,
there's that, like, you're diagnosed or you find out you're autistic and you're like, what do I do now? Because,
that
when I
that
was
was me.
diagnosed, it
That was
was
me. I'm
like,
like, okay, who do I talk to? Where do I go? I see how this is changing me, but I still need a little bit of guidance, and I just didn't get that. So I feel like this is definitely something that's going to help a lot of people, and especially since you're neurodivergent yourself, so you have that lived experience that you bring to it, and people don't understand how much of a difference it makes when you are speaking from your lived experiences.
yeah, yeah. And, I think we're in an age where people are ready, I think, for more lived experiences and more honest conversations and things. Because like once upon a time, like these education, like, Ion education books, like they probably would have only featured very like heavy academic things. They wouldn't have
Yeah,
been amplifying lived experiences. And so like that's something I think about a lot too. It's like,
yeah.
wow, that we're in that kind of a time where lived experiences are being amplified. We're having uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, yes, and that is so important. Like
Yeah.
me, I can totally appreciate a post that's fact-based and academic-based because you want to learn as much as you can, but there's just
Yeah.
something about when you can feel like you can connect on a personal level. But I still, if I see it and I feel like somebody can learn something from it, I'm gonna share it. But I do find that like I kind of connect more when people are sharing their lived experience and
Hmm.
how things resonate with them as opposed to like science and facts. So you having that,
Humans,
yeah, you having
human
that lived.
stories.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, because we're not always autism and autistic people, we're not always humanized. So when
Yeah.
people see it, they appreciate it. But besides the new workbook that I'm really excited for, are there any recent projects you'd like to share?
I mean that's really been it. You touched on my two baby projects right now that I've been
Okay.
on is the memoir and then the workbook. And thank you so much for inviting me into your space.
I'm
It's
really happy to
really
have you. You're always welcome back. If you want to come back when the workbook comes out, I'd love to have you. So, what do you want people to know and take away from this interview?
oh goodness. I think the most important thing to understand is, that there's a vast experience of autistic people out there, and I'm just one autistic voice, and not there's a lot of different experiences out there that may be very different from my own. I struggled to even accept that I was autistic because we had all these stereotypes when I was diagnosed 9 years ago, and I never want to be another stereotype,
Yeah.
and so that's why I think it's so important that we all do tell our stories, and um, you know, we get to humanize our experiences. And so, you know, just don't get too into comparing yourself to other autistic people because,
Yeah.
there will be things that we probably find similar with one another. There may be things, you relate to in my experience, but there may also be things that, you don't relate to in my experience at all. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're less autistic or you're not autistic, just because, you know, we're not exactly the same, because I think that's like that imposter syndrome thing, especially if
Yes.
you're newly discovered. You see an autistic person that you don't relate to, and then it's like easy to fall back into that. And so it's like realize like we're all very unique and we're all very different, and keep seeking out more autistic people of all different experiences.
Yes.
Allies
Yes.
too. You especially allies. Like listen to different autistic people from different parts of the world and with different lived experiences to
Yeah, I must say, like, even though I do get a lot of racist people on my posts, I do have some really amazing allies, and I am really grateful for that.
yeah. It makes a big difference to have
It,
allies
it,
that
it
are like
does, it really
really,
does.
yeah.
It absolutely does. So, I mean, I know where, but tell everybody where they can find you, all your social media sites.
I'm pretty easy to track down. If you search NeuroDivergent Rebel, I've got neurodivergentrebel.com as my website. I'm on Facebook as NeuroDivergent Rebel and Instagram and Blue Sky. I joined Upscrolled recently. It's like a new thing. I don't really know how to use it yet.
I think
And
somebody came to my page and was like, "Hey, there's a new app," and I didn't say anything because I think I was like half asleep and I saw the notification, and I'm like, "All these new
I
apps."
know I'm like, I don't know, it's a new thing. And I'm like, oh, new. Like I'm a creature of habit, very stereotypical in that
Yeah.
way. Oh, I'm also on Substack. I love Substack. It's like a wholesome little community over there. Um, but yeah, if you search Neurodivergent Rebel, you'll probably find me somewhere. I'm a little bit all over the place.
Well, that's a good thing because I'm glad that, we came into contact and we're in each other's orbit.
Yeah, no, same. It's really been great to know you over the years, and I look forward to seeing what else you do.
Yes, I have a few things planned for this year that I hope, get the green light and that I'm able to do it. Um, because I feel like it's just been too much of people telling us what to do instead of
Mhm.
letting us lead. So, I'm hoping for a great year and for doing some of the projects that I have in mind, I want to put them into action. But
Well, let me
thank
know
you.
when you're ready to promote those.
I definitely will because, like I said, I
Thank
always tell
you.
my dad, I'm like, she's such a great supporter. They are such a great supporter. I apologize, me
It's
being
okay. I
part of it.
appreciate you. I see the effort.
Yeah, and like I'm, you know me. We spoke about this off air. I just started, telling people that I was asexual, so I'm still embracing that. I'm actually still learning a lot of things about myself. That's why I really appreciated the beginning of your book where you're speaking about non-binary and things of that nature. So, okay, I'm gonna ramble. So let's close it up. Thank you so much, Lyric, for sharing your powerful story and wisdom with us today. To our listeners, I really appreciate you, and I thank you for tuning in to Black Girl Diagnosed. Your presence and support means everything. And until next time, take care and keep advocating with love.